The White House executive order on artificial intelligence gives agencies action items for using and governing AI. Experts say one of the themes of those action items is using AI responsibly. John Larson's executive vice president. Catherine Ordun is vice president for AI at Booz Allen. John writes there's a lot of, quote, low-hanging good to be done with AI. At DE24, I ask him what he means by that.
We have a tendency, I think, to look at AI and immediately go to the existential threat that it poses. And there's so many things that we can overcome in terms of sort of challenges as a nation and as a world that AI is going to be so well suited to help address. And so I think about things like bending the cost curve in healthcare, something we have tried for many, many years to do, and I think relatively unsuccessfully. And so when we think about something like that, the ability to look at patterns in data and see how we can address these types of health challenges. Look at some of the models that can identify things like cancer, the emergence of patterns that lead to or predict cancer. Think about things like climate change, and, really a critical issue for us, discovering the patterns within that data to unlock some of the solutions to those challenges. So I think it's important to look at this technology and frame it in the context of the amount of good it can do before we get to sort of the existential crisis that we tend to always talk about. I think because we're predominantly fearful of emerging technology.
Mm-hmm. Catherine, you told me about a project that you're working on with NIH that John mentioned cancer and this a cancer pain application for artificial intelligence. Give me a thumbnail of that because I think it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, so I've had the great fortune to work with the National Cancer Institute and their scientists on detecting chronic cancer pain. And this is not something that is socially good for AI. This is socially necessary for AI. And in that work, we're building really robust multimodal AI models, not just warm and fuzzies for socially good type of exercises, but really helping cancer patients with real cancer data. What that means is that from even a single smartphone selfie that the cancer patient is filming in the comfort and safety of their own home, we're able to extract frames, the faces, some three-dimensional landmarks, the intonation of their voice, what they're saying, and fuse all of these, what we call modalities, together to be able to help and assist the oncologist or the research nurse to figure out exactly what level of pain is this cancer patient in. It's very difficult and quite challenging, but as you can see, the long-term results is really enabling a data mission for health.
Mm-hmm. How much of that work it revolves around understanding one particular patient and using that patient's data as a predictive vehicle for the future for that patient? How much of it is combining all of the data for all of the patients to try to predict what somebody who today might not even be in the system yet might experience 6 months from now or a year from now or some future point?
Yes, that's an excellent question because this is a humongous volume of data. The endpoint for this clinical trial is 112 patients. I've been lucky to work with the Booz Allen team and NIH for about 3 years, and we've done analysis on 29 patients, which we published in a scientific journal, as well as now we've got 80 patients. So as you can tell, we have terabytes of data for all of these cancer patients, and they're from various walks of life. When we talk about ethical and explainable and responsible AI, they are different demographics, different ages, different stages of cancer, and different levels of pain. And when we train AI models in such a broad swath and diversity, what we like to say is that the ending kind of final prediction model is generalizable, meaning even if we don't see that cancer patient, can the AI model learn to help distinguish pain?
A couple of things there I want to come back to later in the conversation. John, you wrote recently, we're at a tipping point where AI is permeating everything. And you talked a moment ago about how it's kind of human nature to be at least apprehensive about new technologies like AI. What do you advise people who are federal government leaders who are starting to roll out use cases, see successes, as Catherine talked about it at NCI, but have people that they're leading who are maybe experiencing that apprehension or just outright fear? How do you help them manage through that?
Yeah, so I think it's important to realize that there is a shift that has taken place, right? So I think we've lived through the hype cycles in the past. This is fundamentally different. I think generative AI, I would liken it to the advent of the graphical user interface for the PC. It has transformed the way we are going to interact with AI. It has given us a natural way to program AI and a natural way to consume the outputs from AI. And so I think the first thing I would say is recognize that we are at a shift. This is a paradigm shift in AI. You think about all the troughs and valleys of the hype cycle in the past. This is a shift in the line up. We are no longer on that same plane. It has altered. And so I would encourage you to embrace it. This is a technology that is truly going to transform, I think, our ability to bring analytics and data-driven insights to missions. I think it's important to also lean in and educate, right? This is something that achieving innovation through this technology requires, I sort of think about three things predominantly. First is start with the problem first and work backwards. The tools are amazing. You know, we're practitioners, Catherine and I, but don't become enamored with the tools. Become enamored with the problem and work backwards from the problem. The second is embrace a sort of a culture of innovation, which means that you have to be willing to take risks. And that also means, by definition, risk involves sometimes failing and being willing to fail. Understand that failure, celebrate that failure, but move on from that failure, right? And so I think that's the second thing you have to do. And the third thing is innovation is, I think, everywhere and always everyone's role. But there probably is going to need to be an organization who champions it and drives it. And so like within Booz Allen, we have a CTO organization that we sit within, and our goal is to look over the horizon, to think about those emerging technologies and how those technologies are going to transform. We made investments around AI years ago in anticipation of where we'd be today. And I think the government should be thinking about those types of activities as well.
Catherine, we have about 2 minutes left, and you talked about ethical AI, and that's a great subject of conversation in the federal community for sure, and broadly, I think, across the technology community regarding AI. Are the ethical implications of using AI in a setting like you described at NCI different or additive compared to in some other sector because of the nature of the healthcare mission, or are the concepts pretty similar?
I think that when it comes to people in particular, the ethical standards are much higher. This is embedded even in non-AI routine biomedical types of work. So while it's incredible to be able to get the chance to work on the clinical trial from an AI perspective, as you might know, there are institutional review boards that are required just to get the people signed up. So there's an added responsibility that whatever AI, whether we're handling the data, the types of models we're building, even our interpretation and the way that we explain it, needs to fall in line with some responsible standards.